I'd like to welcome y'all back to another episode of Beyond the Fear podcast, the place where y'all come for motivation, inspiration, uplifting, and overall positive message. I'm your host, DJ, and today we're gonna do something a little different. I I was able to finally watch the movie The Forge, and my mom had been trying to get me to watch it for weeks or maybe even months. And I heard a few people at work, just kind of discussing it and talking about it. And so it just kind of really felt like something I needed to watch or something that, aligned with my way of thinking of where I'm trying to go in life. So I sat down and I watched it, and man, it really was a good movie. I'm glad I took the time to watch it. I can definitely relate to some of the things that the main character went through, some of the things that he dealt with. So it definitely pulled at my heartstrings a little bit. I definitely was shedding a few tears behind the movie. So if you get a chance to watch it, please go and watch it. It's definitely worth the watch. Um, but it got me to thinking, right? Man, I wish that I would have had at that young age a mentor. Posted I even did a post or a post on Facebook saying that, like, man, I wish that I would have had a watching the Forge, and I wish that I would have had a mentor like come into my life like he did. That was a real blessing. And then but then I also had to sit back and really be honest with myself and ask myself if a mentor like that would have come into my life at that time or around that time when I was uh 16, 17, or whatever, would I really have listened? Would I really have been open to the idea? Would I really have accepted his guidance? And what I started to realize was no, I wouldn't have, not because of anything dealing with him. It just would have been with me. And it just made me realize that, not having my father in my life made my relationship with older men like bad for me because I didn't trust older men. So even when I look back on my life, when I look back on things, I can sit back and I can say that there were plenty of people. I can point out plenty of older men who were at the very least who at least were open to the idea of being a mentor, open to the idea of trying to help me, open to the idea of, hey, I see something in you. Let me help you bring that out. Let me help you get the best out of life. Let me show you some things because I see you heading down a path that I already know won't be any good. And so, I had people who were at least trying to do that and be that for me. But the problem was, I just didn't have, I wasn't ready for. I don't, because I'm trying to make sure I say it the right way. I didn't. I wasn't ready for a relationship with a mentorship with an older man. I just wasn't, because I didn't know how to trust him because my father wasn't there. All I knew was my mom, my aunt, my female cousin. So that's all that I was around were women. That's all I was around. So I wasn't around at home. I wasn't around any men. So I didn't know how to trust men. I didn't know how to, open myself up to the idea of, no, he's just trying to guide me. I just look at everybody as, oh, you trying to be my dad, like any older males who were trying to guide me, trying to tell me something. Oh, that's how I'm looking at them, like, oh, you trying to be my dad. And I already at that time had a very strong disdain, maybe even hate for my dad. So it's like, I don't need my dad and I don't need you either. So even when people were trying to be that for me or trying to show me a better way or trying to show me that, hey, the way that I'm going isn't going to lead anywhere positive for me, I wasn't trying to hear it, because in my head you're trying to play dad, and I don't need my actual dad, so I don't need you either. And so it just kind of got me to thinking that even if I did have somebody like the young man in the forge ended up getting like a mentor like that, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have, it wouldn't have worked. I wouldn't have been receptive to it because I think for me, um, at least where I kind of fell back from people or fell back from those type of bonds and those type of relationships is, I just felt that they were, again, like I say, trying to play the dad role. And in my mind at that time, I was just stuck on believing I don't need a dad. I don't need you to be my dad. I don't need my actual dad. So I don't need you to be my dad. That's number one. And then number two, I just felt like I didn't understand what they were doing because of the way they were doing it. So to give you an example of, somebody who could have been trying to be a mentor, I had a principal, right, who used to love telling me, who used to love getting on me about pulling my pants up and wearing a belt and all this stuff. Again, good stuff, good advice to give, right? But the thing that bothered me was somebody could be walking, it could be two people walking on either side of me, and the person walking in front of me doing the exact same thing, and he didn't say anything to them. And so it's just like in my mind, I instantly go to like, okay, he trying to bully me. He picking me out of this group to set an example because I've always been tall. I've always been big. So, just trying to use me to set an example. So that's how I'm looking at it instead of looking at it. And then like towards the end of that year, another teacher kind of pointed it out to me like, well, I would have done the same thing. And I was like, why you say that? And they was like, because you're a leader. People follow you. People, and me being me, I'm not believing none of this. Because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing people follow me. I'm just, I'm not thinking that I even have power like that. I'm not even thinking I have influence like that. So I'm thinking they just talking just to talk. So they're like, so he was telling me like, because you have power, you have influence, people follow you. He even said that I need to get into political science. So I wasn't paying attention to any of that. But this is what he's telling me. So he said he knows that if he could get you to start doing it, watch how other people start doing it. And so that I feel like that could have been a potential mentorship. But my thing was I had too many of the male role models talking at me instead of talking to me. They were they didn't do a good enough, or at least they didn't do. I'll just say they didn't. In my opinion, they didn't do a good enough job of talking to me and trying to get me to understand. And I think that that's one of the things that the guy on the forge did because the main character, because I can't remember his name, he was kind of stubborn, kind of hard headed, bullish, kind of like how I was. But the mentor saw something in him and he was like, no, I got to get this young man to understand that, hey, he can be he can be all this, he can be here, but he's got to get rid of the attitude. He's got to forgive some people. He's got to let this anger go, so he sees all of that because I'm pretty sure he saw his old self in the young man. So I wish that I would have had somebody to just talk to me, and try to get me to understand. And again, I'm not going to sit here and act like it would have been an easy job because I know it wouldn't have. It would have been a very hard job because I was very deep rooted in that stubbornness, especially when it came to men because of my father, just my hate towards my father. It shaped my relationship with, what I'm saying, people, especially men, especially older men trying to be helpful or trying to play that father leadership guidance role for me. So it did a lot. And that's one of the things that I'm learning, especially on my journey and my walk with therapy, is that I'm learning that my relationship or lack thereof with my father has shaped a lot of things in my life. And it's like, I'm starting to see that now. I know I talked about it a little bit before, but I'm starting to see how much not having him around and how much that anger I had towards him is shaping all of this stuff. And it's so crazy because when I watched that movie, that's one of the main things that I took away from that movie is just like my relationship with not having. One of the reasons why I feel like I didn't have a mentor now is not from the lack of maybe someone trying, but the lack of me being receptive, and my anger and my hatred was very, very, very deep. And I would have needed somebody who was patient enough to get through that hard shell. And I didn't have that. And that's, it's unfortunate, but it's okay. You know what I'm saying? It took me a little time, but I'm getting to where I need to be. And now that I'm opening my eyes, hopefully I can be that for somebody else. Hopefully I can be that for a young man who may be struggling with the same things that I struggled with. So I'm learning the importance of patience. I'm learning how to be patient so that way, if ever a situation like that were to come up, I can be patient enough to show him like, hey, not every man is your dad. Not every man is going to run away. Not every man is going to leave you high and dry. That there are people who are willing to take their time with you. There are people who want to be here for you, that want to love you, that want to care for you, and they want to show you that you are worth their time. And so, it was a lot. It was definitely an emotional roller coaster, but it was such a great movie. And there was so many great lessons in there. But that was just the one that was the main thing that kind of stuck in my head when because like I said, my mom wanted me to watch this movie for a long time, had been asking me to watch it. And so when I sat down with her and we were talking about it, that was like the main thing that we talked about. Because it was like, on one hand, I was like, man, I wish I would have had that. But then on the other hand, I had to be honest with myself and say, I probably wouldn't have been receptive. And another thing, because this is a Christian faith-based movie, so he was leading with God. So you know what I'm saying. So when he met the young man and and was talking to him and stuff, he started talking about God and stuff like that. And I had to again be honest with myself. So how would I have felt if somebody would have been leading with the, leading with God, making sure that they brought God into every conversation that we was having. And it made me realize that again, at that time, I don't know how receptive I would have been now if it would have been, if he would have been, if the person trying to be in my life would have been like the man in the movie and would have been patient with me, then yeah, I know for a fact he could have gotten around to me. It would have taken some time because again, my anger and all that stuff was deep. It was rooted there, you know what I'm saying? Because I still feel it to this day, even though my father is gone, dead and gone, he's passed away. But as we through therapy, through experiences like this with the Fords, as I'm starting to chip away at, whatever resentment, anger, whatever I've had towards, my father, I started to chip away at it. I started to realize how deep it was. And I'm starting to see how much it affected me because for the longest time, you couldn't tell me, you couldn't get me to believe that I needed my father, that I needed him in my life because it's like, my mom was making it happen. Life ain't perfect, but hey, we getting there. We doing what we need to do. We getting by. We making it. So you couldn't tell me that I needed my father, and you know what I'm saying. And I know I've said on here before, the stuff that happened with my relationship and everything that's happened that has been happening to me for a long time has got me realizing that yeah, I did need him, and if not him, I needed a positive male role model in my life, showing me what it's like, showing me what being a man looks like, taking care of things. You know what I'm saying? I needed that, and so it's definitely it's it's showing me a lot about myself, and it's becoming for me such a important topic. You know what I'm saying? It was a topic that I never wanted to talk about. I never wanted to touch. I never wanted to talk about um, my father, because anytime somebody brought him up, whether they say I looked like him, they said I acted like him, it got on my nerves. It frustrated me. Um, but now it's really got me wanting to explore this because I honestly believe, I know for a fact now that once I can unlock that, I can get that, whatever that is, I can get past that. It would help me because even now, I want mentors, even though I'm 35, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that you're ever too old or it's too late to have mentors who've been through what you've been through, seen what you're seeing, gone through what you're going through now, and can help guide you. But I also know I can also still feel, even though that's something that I really want and it's something that I would push for. So it's different than when I was a child. So I do understand it. There is still that piece of it's still pieces of that there that I felt back then, that it's like, you know what I'm saying? Even though this is what I want and this is what I'm going to push for and this is what I'm going to have, I'm going to get my network of, you know what I'm saying, men who can help me, who can guide me, who can teach me, who've been through, what I'm going through, or been through things that I haven't even gone through yet, and can guide me and can lead me and push me and motivate me and, what I'm saying, get me going in the right directions. That's what I want and that's what I'm going to get. But even in that, I still have that little bit of drawback, that little bit of pushback, that little bit of, and I know that most of it, if not all of it, is stemming from my lack of a relationship uh, with my father. You know what I'm saying? And so a part of me does wish that I would have went on this journey, this process and all this stuff while he was still alive. But it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason. And maybe if he was alive, I wouldn't be open to it. Maybe seeing his face would trigger something in me, trigger that anger in me all over again. Maybe this was the best time. I don't know. Only time will tell. But, I'm glad that I'm getting to this space where I can even talk about it. Because like I said, for the longest time, it was anger and resentment. And then after a while, it was just you bury those thoughts and those feelings so deep that it's just kind of like you just nonchalant about it. But I thought I was able to convince myself that no, I'm over it, I'm beyond it. But no, I have, because I've never dealt with it, because I always shut the conversation down when it came up. So I've never dealt with it. I just buried it deep enough to where day to day it don't affect me. And now that not every single, but now that everywhere I turn, something's bringing him up, and and it's like, okay, okay, God, sent me enough signs. I know I got to sit down and I got to deal with this. I got to ask myself these tough questions. I got to have these real conversations with myself, because now I'm starting to see how much it affected me. I never saw it before, these past couple of months. I never realized how much it was affecting me, how much it was holding me back. I didn't realize that that's one of the biggest anchors, you know, that I'm still holding on to, is like my feelings with my father, my emotions, the things that I need to deal with him, that's got me stuck in this same spot, this sinkhole. And so now that I'm starting to tackle these things, I can start to feel just a little bit that, I'm starting to become a little freer. So, you know what I'm saying? So it has me, I'm ready to do it. It's just, I don't even know. I guess there's still a part of me, if I'm being completely honest, I guess there's still a part of me that's like, still resentful, and I got to figure out how to let that go. I got to figure out how to deal with that, because it's like, even as I'm kind of shedding tears, right, and being getting emotional thinking about him, it's like part of me still is like, no, don't cry over him. And so I got to let that go. I know that I do. I just don't know how. You know what I'm saying? All I can do, well, I'm definitely gonna pray about it, and just kind of ask people how to do it, how to truly let it go, because I don't want to just say I let it go, but I'm still holding on to it. I want to figure out how to truly let it go, so that way when I'm doing this and I'm letting these tears go, that I can let the tears go. I don't have to keep holding it back like on some, I don't want to cry for him. And I think that the one thing that I wish I would have gotten from him would have just been a conversation to understand why, because I'm a big person on like the why. And I understand that you're not going to always get that. And obviously I won't now. And I think that that's one of the reasons why it's so hard for me to let go, because I don't understand why. And maybe there was no real reason. Who knows? And maybe that was even the best thing for me, because who's to say he would have even been a good person or a good father to be around? You just never know. But it's just hard. But I got to figure out how to truly forgive him and to let it go, so that way I can finally break free of that chain, you know what I'm saying, and let it go and just be thankful, towards him for being my father and helping me come into this world. And he did his part. It's like I understand it. Trust me, I do. So when people talk to me and they tell me that stuff, it's not like it's going over my head. I do understand it. You know what I'm saying? It's just I've held on to this emotion for so long. It's become ingrained in me. It's become rooted in me. It's become a part of who I am. So it's just hard letting it go. You know what I'm saying? And it's tough. It's tough. And a lot of this stuff that I'm talking to y'all about, I'm literally realizing in this moment, this stuff. But, it just becomes so a part of who I am. You know what I'm saying? This anger and this that it started to consume me. It's been consumed me. Let me not even say started to. It's been consumed me. It consumed me years ago, and that's why again I didn't have any relationships with older men, especially if I didn't know you. Like if you my friend's dad and you telling me something, all right, cool, but you somebody like a principal, a teacher, I don't know you, and you trying to talk to me about no. And so it has been took control. It been took over me, that anger and that rage and that frustration, and it's been guiding me down a path of self-destruction. So I think that the main thing for me that I want to kind of get out of therapy and getting out of, getting into these mentorships and reaching out to people and doing what I need to do is just learning how to truly forgive my dad and let go of all of this pent up frustration and anger and resentment that I have towards him. I think that that's what I really want, out of this, as far as like when it comes to my dad and how I want to be able to close this chapter with him. I think the main thing for me is just being able to forgive him and genuinely let it go. Like, and just being able to close that chapter or whatever. Or even when I think about him, just think about it, think about him, without getting angry. You know what I'm saying? Or without feeling like, you know what I'm saying? Because I can honestly say I feel that I don't hate him. I do not hate my dad, but I can't say that I don't have strong anger, a strong resentment still towards him. So I know that that's what I have to work on. I have to work on letting that stuff go, because it's consumed me. And now that I'm starting to realize how much it's affected my relationships, and it's affected the way I treat people, the way I talk to people, how guarded I am with people, it's just it's starting to, everything, a lot of things are just starting to make more sense for me. And I realize that's why I have a bunch of women friends and not a bunch of male friends. And even with my male friends, it's been friends that I've been having since like preschool, elementary, you know what I'm saying? It ain't too many people that are in my circle, like, my circle that are new as far as like men, and so, and I understand now that a lot of that stems from, my dad and, me not dealing with that, and it's affected and it's creeped into every single part of my life and every single, relationship that I have with men and women. It's affected in one way or another. So, but I think that just talking today, I think that the main two things that I want to do is to find out how I can truly like let go of all of this, and and just forgiving them, and so that way I can move forward. That way I can finally turn the page in that book, because I know he's resting, he's at peace, and I'm still allowing this stuff to torment me. And, so I just really want to get past this so that way I can move forward, and I can, finally close the chapter room on that book, and it's crazy because, again, for me, I've been thinking that this chapter has been closed. I've been thinking like, that I've moved on. And so as you start to realize, well, as I start to realize that, nah, and this book ain't nowhere. This book has not been closed, and it's nowhere near being closed. It's just like it's a very humbling experience, because, like I say, when I tell y'all that I genuinely thought I was through with that conversation, I'm thinking I done dealt with my dad. I done dealt with, my emotions with my dad. I done dealt with dealing, what I'm saying, how I felt about him. I'm thinking, okay, I don't hate the man. I can sit here and I can have a conversation with him, which I could. I could have a conversation. I could be in the same room with him. All of that. You know what I'm saying? And what I'm realizing now is, like, I didn't have any anger towards him, but yeah, I still had resentment. I still had frustration. I still had a problem with when I came to you at whatever age I was. You tried to come back into my life, and I tried to have a conversation with you, and you was like, "Hey, you can either forgive me or you can't." I still had an issue with that. Like, even as I'm telling the story right now, it's like I can hear it in my own voice that, yeah, that was a problem for me, because I didn't like that. I didn't like that. Hey, I want you in my life. Oh, okay, me being honest, put myself back in there. It's not so much that I wanted you in my life, but I was open to the idea of you being in my life. My thing is, okay, all I want is a conversation. I just want some understanding. I want to know, hey, what's up? And for you to say that, it was just kind of like, okay, you don't want that you don't want to be in my life, so cool, I don't want you in mine. And then other things happened, but that was just like one of the first kind of memories. But I want to learn how to let that go, because obviously I'm still holding on to that. Obviously there's still something there that's doing something to me, that's stirring up some negative emotions in me. So I want to learn how to let that go, to give that up and forgive him, because I don't know what place he was in at that time. I don't know who he was at that time. And because of that one incident, I mean, there were several more, but because of that one incident, I never wanted to get to know him. You know what I'm saying? I never wanted to know what type of man he was, or, who he was growing into. I didn't care. Even when he became a pastor of a church and all those things, I just did not care. But clearly he was somebody different than who he was back then. It's just that my anger and my resentment at that time wouldn't even allow me to get to know the man, get to know who he is now. I had no interest in it, you know what I'm saying? And so I want to get rid of that. I want to get rid of that resentment, that stuff that was holding me back from getting to know who he was at the time before he passed, because he was clearly a different man than who he was then. I'm pretty sure that if I would have reached out to him then, um, about sitting down and having this conversation, he probably would have been more open to having the conversation. And I wish that I would have opened up and done that, but I wasn't ready. You know what I'm saying? Because I never dealt with my issues. You know what I'm saying? So I never was going to be ready. If I wasn't going through therapy right now, I still wouldn't be dealing with it. So, everything happens for a reason, and everything happens on this, on the right timing. And so right now was the timing for me, because it's just it'll just be easier for me to just say what I need to say to him, and him just listen and not, and not respond. And just, I think it'll just be easier for where I am right now. It'll be easier for me to just have that conversation, that one-sided conversation. But man, all in all, man, y'all, please, if y'all get a chance to watch The Forge, man. It is a very powerful movie with a very powerful message. So please, if y'all get a chance, watch The Forge. Great movie. It's got a lot of great acting. It's talking about a lot of powerful things, especially things that might be going on affecting you, affecting people around you, especially in the community where I come from. There are some powerful messages in there for everybody. But, please, man, if y'all get a chance to watch The Forge, watch The Forge. And I'm definitely going to come back, man, and give y'all an update on how everything's going with me starting to heal and everything that I'm going through. But what I want to leave y'all with is, man, if there's somebody that you're dealing with, whether that's a mother, father, uncle, whatever, and you know that you need to start healing from whatever that they may have done or said or whatever it is, man, start doing that healing, start doing what you need to do, because you may not know how deeply it's affecting your life and affecting your relationships with the people around you. So it's important to start dealing with those things and those issues now, before, you know what I'm saying, you allow them to take root. And if they've already taken root, then it's time to start doing the work to start digging up those roots and getting rid of them, because it ain't doing nothing but spreading more and more hatred. You know what I'm saying? It's making you, all it's going to do is create this cycle of hatred and this cycle of violence. So, it's time to start healing. It's time for all of us to start healing from our past and healing from the things that we've been through, the things that's been done to us, the things that we don't like to talk about because it brings out so much anger and frustration and emotion in us. But it's time to start dealing with these things so we can start breaking these chains and start breaking these cycles. But, that's it for today's episode, man. I want to thank everybody for listening on whatever platforms y'all are listening on. Thank y'all for taking the time out to listen. And everybody watching on YouTube, I want to thank y'all as well. So please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Y'all have a blessed day, a blessed week, a blessed month, and a blessed year.